Look at this photograph. Four people, early 1900s, sitting together under a tree. At first glance, there's nothing unusual here. Just an old family photo, the kind you might find in a shoebox in your grandmother's attic. But here's the thing. When researchers tried to trace these four people through historical records, something strange happened. Three of them, easy to find. Birth certificates, census records, marriage licenses, death certificates. Their entire lives documented and traceable. But the fourth person? It's like they were never there at all. Let me tell you what we're looking at. It's sometime between 1900 and 1920. We can tell from the clothing, the photo quality, the way they're posed. They're outside, beneath a tree, grass beneath them, natural light filtering through the leaves. One man reclining slightly, three women sitting close beside him. They're dressed nicely, long skirts, light blouses, a plain suit, nothing fancy, but deliberate. The kind of outfit you put on when you know you're being photographed. Two hats rest on the ground near their hands. No one's blurred, no one's moving. They held still long enough for the camera to capture them clearly. This wasn't a casual snapshot. In the early 1900s, photographs were events. You didn't just pull out your phone and take 50 pictures hoping one turned out okay. Film was expensive. Cameras were rare. If you were being photographed, it meant something. It meant you mattered enough to be remembered. Or so you'd think.
But here's what you need to understand about this era. Photography wasn't just about memory. It was about proof. Proof you existed. Proof you were part of a family. Proof you belonged somewhere. These photos ended up everywhere. Family Bibles, employment files, church directories, school records. To be photographed often meant you'd eventually be documented in other ways too. Being visible in an image usually meant being visible on paper. Usually. So, here's where it gets weird. When historians trace these four people through census records, city directories, birth and death certificates, the usual paper trail we all leave behind, three of them show up exactly where you'd expect. Their names appear consistently, their ages progress logically, you can follow them through marriages, children, address changes, jobs. But one person? The trail goes cold. Not missing, that's not quite right. They appear inconsistently. A name here, maybe, a different age there, no clear occupation listed, no clear household status, and then nothing. The records just move on without them. Before you start imagining some conspiracy, let me be clear. This isn't rare. It happened all the time. In the early 1900s, getting counted wasn't automatic. The census didn't just happen to you. Someone had to physically come to your door, ask questions, write down answers. And those census takers? They made judgment calls. They decided who was head of household, who was temporary, who was worth recording, who wasn't. If you worked informally, doing laundry, seasonal farm work, domestic labor, you might not have official employment records. If you moved frequently, you might slip between census years. If you lived in what officials considered non-traditional arrangements, you might be listed vaguely or not at all. If your name was difficult to spell, it might be recorded differently every time. If you were seen as transient, invisible, or unimportant, you could exist fully in life and barely exist on paper.
But here's what bothers me about this particular case. The photograph is perfect. All four people are clearly visible, well-lit, in focus, obviously important enough to whoever took this picture that they wanted to preserve this moment. Someone cared enough to arrange this photo. Someone cared enough to keep it. Someone cared enough that it survived over 100 years. But the bureaucracy? It didn't care at all. One of these four people, someone who clearly mattered to someone, just fell through the cracks of history. Not because they disappeared, because the system never really saw them in the first place. Let me ask you something. How much of your life exists only on paper? Your birth certificate, social security number, school records, medical files, tax returns, employment history. Now imagine all of that just not happening.
You're still living your life, going to work, spending time with family, sitting for photographs, but officially, you barely exist. That's what we're looking at here. Someone who is present, physically, socially, emotionally present in this moment, but who never became permanent in the way the system required. I know when people hear missing from records, they imagine drama, someone fleeing in the night, a crime, a scandal, a mystery to solve. But most historical disappearances aren't like that. They're quiet, they're bureaucratic. Someone moves cities and the new census taker doesn't catch them. Someone works off the books their whole life. Someone gets sick and stops interacting with institutions. Someone is simply overlooked. Life continues, the paperwork doesn't. And 100 years later, we're left with photographs of people we can see but can't trace. And this means history is written from documents. When someone doesn't appear in documents, history forgets them. Not because they didn't matter, not because they didn't contribute, not because they weren't loved, but because some clerk in 1910 decided they weren't worth writing down.
But look again. 4 people, 1 tree, 1 moment. 3 of them echo forward through time, names and records, dates on certificates, stories that can be reconstructed. 1 of them just stops. Not because they ceased to exist, but because history stopped counting them. Why I'm telling you this? This is the first photograph in a series I'm going to share with you. Each one shows people who were clearly present in their own lives, but who became invisible to history. Not through tragedy, not through choice, through the quiet violence of being overlooked. I'm not here to solve mysteries or uncover scandals. I'm here to notice the gaps, to ask, who else are we not seeing? Not just in old photographs, but right now. Who's present in life but absent from the systems that claim to count everyone? The photograph remains. The person in it was real. They sat under this tree. They faced this camera. They existed. The record doesn't care, but we can. If you want to keep looking at these forgotten faces with me, stay tuned. There are more, and every single one of them deserves to be seen.